Hey there, YouTube. It is January 8th, 2017. It has been quite a busy week of work this week. Kids' birthdays, you name it this week. I'll tell you, I have a new respect for kindergarten teachers. A room full of about 20 kindergartners just about nearly won the battle with the parents. I don't know how those teachers do it. But back in the shop, I'm glad to be out here. So as you can see, I did get myself some nice plywood to put up on the top of the bench to complete the shop bench project. So I'll kind of refresh everybody where we're at, and we'll get cutting here. All right, so as you may recall, the bench is 30 inches wide by a whopping 18 feet long. So I got 3 sheets of plywood, 3 8-foot sheets of plywood, so I will have some left over from this project. We'll see what else we can do with that later. Alright guys, so I got the plywood set up here. So before you make the cut, make sure that on your saw you note the rotation of the blade on the saw. So for my saw here, you can see by the teeth that it's rotating clockwise to the way you're looking at it. And what's going to happen is as the tooth of the blade comes up through the wood, it will cause tear out on the top of the piece of wood that you're cutting. So why is this important? Well, in this case, with this piece of plywood, and you want to have a nice top, or I want to have a nice top on the bench, I want to make sure that if there's any tear out on this piece of wood, that it's facing down. So that means that the top of the bench needs to be on the bottom here, so as the blade comes up through the wood, the tear out will be on the top, which is ultimately, when we flip this over, going to be the bottom of the bench. So I do also happen to have an 8-foot level here to make a nice straight cut. So keep in mind as well the offset of your saw from whichever edge or whichever direction you're cutting from, either your short edge here to the blade or the longer edge, and taking that into account when you're setting up your saw. So the easiest way that I've found to do that is, rather than just measure from the edge here to the saw, I just mark a 30-inch mark or whatever measurement on my board, and then I set the saw up and just bring the level to the edge of the saw before I cut, and then clamp all that down. Alright, so I got the straight edge clamped down. So I made my 30-inch mark on the wood, and then I offset the straight edge to account for the offset on my blade. So we'll get this ripped off and I'll show you what it looks like on the table. Alright guys, we've got that edge cut off. So before I flip it over, what I wanted to show you before I flip this over, you can see on the edge here all that tear out from the blade coming up and cutting that that veneer, or pulling off that veneer that's on the top of the plywood here. So important to make sure that you've got the wood facing the correct direction so that this will be hidden on your finished product. So let me flip this over and I'll show you what the clean edge looks like. Alright, so here I've flipped the piece of wood over. If you look, it's a nice, clean, sharp edge. All that tear out here, you can see that it's on the bottom there. But this edge is nice and clean. And overall, I made sure I picked a nice side of the board to stay up. So this bench top here should look pretty good. Alright guys, there it is. 18 foot of shop bench done. I am extremely happy with how the bench turned out. I think it's going to make a great area for future projects. So as always, if you like these videos, please like, please subscribe, please provide comments. I'd like to know what I can do better for you, what I can, how I can do these videos to make them more enjoyable for you. So I look forward to sharing more projects with you in the future.